Hey everybody, welcome to Landscape Rescue. My name's Stuart Moore and today I'm at Affinity Estates. Some people have been asking for some updates on how things were going, and I've done a lot of work here that was completely off camera because it was so close to the nurseries that I worked at. So let's take a look. So right down the street is Site 1, and then right across the street is Carson's nursery, where I used to work, where I met one of the owners. We just established a relationship. It took me a second to gain his trust because nobody does anything for free in this world, except apparently me. I was bringing like clearance plants from Site 1 that over here, trees that had been scratched up by the deer. I brought them over here. I just had a lot of fun not throwing trees away. I could work this environment over here. I don't know why they would be disappointed in that. So let's just real quick, I just kind of want to go through the things that I've done that wasn't on camera. About 2 years ago or some change, 2 years and some change, I stopped doing YouTube. It wasn't on purpose, I just did. I had one good season. I was working so much that it was just really hard for me to come back and consistently produce videos. I didn't want to do a, half job. I wanted to do a good job for you guys. So I just kind of phased YouTube out, but I never phased out landscaping. I was working at a garden center at the time. I really enjoy the green industry for all of its labor and stress. I enjoyed it. And so I would come here and I would plant things that I found. This is a magnolia. I know the name. I planted this. This was a free plant. This one was just all beat up. It had just been smoked for a couple years at the garden center that I worked at, and I just brought it over here and planted it, and it's doing fantastic. So you can see from a distance here that magnolia. I forget what type of magnolia it's called. This is a magnolia. This is a Yoshino cherry that I bought from Lowe's for $5. Right there on the corner. I thought that would look really pretty. And we've lost some things over here because I'm not over here. I don't get a dote on this place. I did when I worked at those nurseries. I could just shoot across the street, but they changed some stuff with the intersection over here, and it was really hard to get to. I had to go all the way down and do a U-turn, come back, then go all the way and do a U-turn to come back over here. So it was just kind of a pain in the butt when you're tired and you're only gonna invest about 30 minutes on a property, but I would do that every day. I just couldn't keep it up, if that makes sense. Because usually when I leave work, I'm starving to death. Like I run pretty low calorie throughout the day, burn a lot of calories, don't eat a big lunch, eat a breakfast, don't eat a big lunch, and then that way I'm ravenous when I come home. And it was really hard to invest that extra 10 minutes to come here instead of just driving right past the U-turn spot and going home and eating and making some food for myself so I could eat. This is a cornelian dogwood. This was a free purchase. We had a bunch of them at Site 1. The root balls had disintegrated and no one was gonna buy them. No landscaper really is gonna put something like that in a customer's yard because the attrition rate was gonna be high. So what we did is Tree Saver. I biopacked them, which is a Biopack Plus, which is a shock reducer. I went in and put the 2-year fertilizer tablets in it. We planted a cornelian there. We've got autumn blaze maples, which were also free because they got jacked up by some deer and no one was gonna buy them. So I just threw them all in a trailer and brought them up here. The cornelian, autumn blaze, cornelian dogwood, autumn blaze, cornelian. This autumn blaze had a canker in it, and so one windstorm blew it over, and it's starting to sucker, so we'll probably be able to save this one. This one got hit with the same thing. It had some sort of canker. Wind came through, blew it over, and then that one just died. I thought it was gonna be fine. Then the deer came in and rubbed on it and just kind of jacked it up. This cornelian, not doing spectacular, probably needs a trimming from yours truly. but it's there. And for free trees, guys, like all of these trees that I planted here, we knocked it out in one day after work. We just came through here and just we had a tractor and an auger, and we just planted them. For free trees, I think they're all doing really good. Even the ones that are dead, for a free tree, it's doing pretty good. And I did like how the two that had cankers, lucky for us, were on either side of this drive. So when they fell over, the homeowner calls me and is like, hey, can we save this? And it's like literally a tree broken in half. And I go, nope, but what we can do is we can cut it down at the base and let it resucker. And it did, but one of them got hit by the deer, so that didn't work out for us. These are cornelian dogwoods you can put in full sun, but I'll show you the deer damage. It's still healing. See, it's still in the process of healing. It is what it is, should be fine, but if it's not, it was a free tree. So you can see right here, the deer rub on this one is completely healed now. So for a free tree, that was not too shabby. There wasn't anything here. What I wanted to do crab apples along this, but I couldn't get any free crab apples, so business owner didn't want to invest $1,200 in this, so which I completely understand. You've got to understand, I met this gentleman during COVID, and this is a wedding venue. I don't know if wedding venue and some Airbnbs. Very difficult to keep a wedding venue going during COVID when they were shutting everything down. So they were having a rough go when we met. And so that was one of the driving forces for me. The challenge was, how could I make this as cost efficient as possible? That project kind of being my baby, and being a manager of a garden center, over the plants anyway, it really gave me a unique opportunity to help somebody out and do it. These hostas I planted in a video. We're suffering from water. We're not watering enough over here to really get these big and beautiful, but they were small transplants. I mean, I separated them all the way down as far as I could go. And you can see the ones that I've put in are doing pretty good in a completely deer infested environment. And I'm using biosolids to do that, to keep them out of here. But it is what it is. It's doing okay. This spot looks really good here underneath a giant white oak, and they're still doing fine. The challenge of big trees pulling all the moisture out of the soil, the challenge is there, but it's doable. And especially if we can take solace in the fact that this doesn't get watered very often. I mean, it gets watered, but not like I would water it or you would water it. So there we go. That's that. This is the bed from hell. 2 layers of gravel and 2 layers of weed barrier in this bed. I have kind of given up in this area. It is just so hard to work in here. It needs to be redone. It needs to be redone. The gravel needs to be pulled out. We need to go back to mulch on this area. What I would do is I would just come in here and I would just tear this whole thing apart. There would be nothing left, and then start bringing in some topsoil, and then we could get on top of the weeds. There's just so much seed bank in there. Now this is the procession bed. Everybody comes from this area here and they walk down. You've got a kind of like a dance floor area here. And then here's where people get married. It overlooks this very pretty kind of woodland area where people can get married down there. So very pretty. It's a gorgeous spot with a lot of potential. My issue is I don't have time to bring it. I don't have the time. I don't have the equipment. I don't have the labor to, I think, make this a destination for people. So the biggest compliment that I would have would be people would be here after hours walking around looking at the landscaping and taking pictures and things here. That's what I envision this place being, is a place for people to build memories. through photographs and things like that. So, and they're also an event venue, so they can host events here. They do like murder mysteries and wine tastings and all sorts of stuff here. Can encourage people to just kind of get out and walk around. You could start doing wine tastings underneath the pergola. You could start doing things like that. This is a really pretty in the spring because we have a giant weeping cherry here, a giant weeping cherry on the corner there. And so when the bride walks through, this is the direction she comes, and people line this area. And then they stand around and up here and watch the wedding. Very pretty. It's a very, very beautiful place. And I just have not been able to get it potential-wise where I think it should be. I even wanted to do something seasonal where every season we had something going on so the bride would have a place to take pictures every season. So in the fall, we have a place to take season, early spring, early summer, late summer. And I can't put it together because I'm just one dude. You can understand why the playlist is so short when it comes to Affinity Estates, because I'm just one guy, and I had all these big energy ideas of what I could do with this place and do it relatively inexpensive. I have done a very good job of making this inexpensive. I think the homeowner in this whole area, the homeowner only spent about $800 total, and that's total. That's over the 3 years. So that's, fertilizer, the biosolids to keep the deer out, me keeping it weeded, me bringing new plants in, the plants, extra plants like these dwarf Fuji cherries here, which I need to prune up. And then if you can see, I need to start trimming out these daffodils that have laid down here, because I've got a bunch of echinacea in there that they need some sunlight. They should be blooming right now, the echinacea that's in here, but the daffodils are hogging all the sunlight. So I need to prune these up, and that way we can get black-eyed Susans and things around here. I need to get rid of the daffodils. I need to fix some of these roses that are having problems. But see, this wash is so bad, and I don't have any mulch here. There's zero mulch here. Now I've got exposed soil, and now I've put treflan down, but I'm just not here enough to keep it looking good. And not to mention the fact, you run a blower every week through here to blow the grass off of the ground because the owner, he's the one that does all the mowing and stuff like that. He doesn't hire that out. They can't afford to do it. It's one of those things where, margins are razor thin here. So anything extra I can do to help, I want to help. But again, just one guy. So these dwarf Fuji cherries, I think today I'm going to prune those up a little bit. I'm going to prune those up so I can get more light penetration in here. The roses definitely need some help. These are drift roses. I had a bunch of really beat up white drifts that I ended up bringing in here, and they looked great for a couple years. And then this is uncharacteristic of me, but whenever I had something sad that was a drift rose, I just popped it in. So you've got a red one down there. You've got a bunch of whites. There was originally 6 whites in here, and we had just kind of lost them periodically here and there. I popped the pink in over here. Yeah, it just needs some work. It needs to come in. I earlier in the spring, I came in here and worked. This is a weeping purple fountain beech. That was a free tree. That was just a tree that root ball had disintegrated. No one was going to buy it. It's just sitting there in mulch, and it got taken out of inventory. A lot of the maintenance that you do at a nursery is making sure your inventory isn't getting stale so you can get a new one back in. Unfortunately, no one was really buying those, and I don't understand why, because this one was gorgeous for about a year and a half. When I pulled that out of the ground, I mean, there was roots 3 feet growing in the mulch. So we maintained those roots. I watered it down, I wet it down real good, put it in the back of the trailer, brought it right up here, dug the hole, put it right in the hole. I mean, it had only been exposed for, I don't know, probably an hour. So you do something like that in the fall, and this is what you get. Got a good deal on it. It's free. These are all double red knockouts here. You can see those, and I mixed in about 250 oh, was it 500? It was either 500 or 250. I can't remember how many of the Narcissus. They're the ones that kind of look like paper whites. I brought those in. This is their second year. Unfortunately, we had a big rainstorm and it laid them all down this year. So I didn't get to see them. I didn't get to see them bloom very well because it just kind of looked rough. This was not a good year for these Narcissus. I think they're, what are they? Narcissus, it's got a weird name, but you know the ones I'm talking about. Very tiny daffodils, lots of blooms, look like this place is Mosquito Estates is what it should be called. And it's just covered in them. And it's gorgeous because they pop out right around the time that my Dutch Master, which I have 250 Dutch Master daffodils in here also, that bloom at the same time as these dwarf Fuji cherries, and it just looks amazing. It just looks so good. And once those Dutch Master are kind of done, these they're not paper whites. I don't know why I keep on calling them that, but you know what I'm talking about. The smaller daffodils, they pop up and just look amazing. So pretty. Little overgrown here. I didn't trim these roses back this year because I kind of wanted to see how much height I think. Ooh, I got them. Couldn't see. I got that sweet blood. They're all over the place. They're gonna get me. I didn't trim them back this year. I should have. I didn't. Usually I come through and I knock them down to about 8 inches and I spray dormant oil all over them. It would be pretty detrimental on this property, especially if we had rosette or virus. It would be pretty nasty because I got a bunch of panicle hydrangeas too, which are susceptible to that. Also, all of these panicles right here are little limes. If I remember right, these are all little limes. And the idea was, crepe myrtles in the back, I have purple, white, purple, white, purple, white, all the way to the end of this big long fence. I cannot get these things to make it through the winter. So every year I end up cutting them back. Well, now that I've gotten the deer issues under control, now these little limes are starting to bloom, they're starting to look good, right? Because for 3 years I couldn't get these to bloom because the deers were eating them. And then my friend Johnny Floyd told me about the biosolid and to try that. And so the idea was this was going to be the 12-foot crepe myrtles were going to be my last tier. Then I go down to 5 feet, then I go down to 4 feet, and then I start working my way into drift roses and echinacea and black-eyed Susans. And it was really doing well, except for I cannot get a year where these things survive the winter, where these crepe myrtles survive the winter. So I haven't been able to see it yet. And we're going on 3.5 years of me coming here, and it's been a little frustrating. You can see how what the benefit of bringing these up a little bit would be. And the idea behind this design, just so you know, because we're just really talking design theory on this video, you can see right here there was another dwarf Fuji cherry right here, but it ended up not making it through the winter for some reason. I just packed it full of echinacea and it looks really good. It's almost like, looks really good, but me tooting my own horn. But what ends up happening is you have these 2 giant weeping cherries blooming. The dwarf Fuji cherries are blooming, and then you have those Dutch Master daffodils running through this whole thing, just looking amazing. And it's such a beautiful time of year for this bed being a predominantly summer bed with the black-eyed Susans, and we've got some salvia in there that's blooming right now. There's a clematis on the back, which with the storms and the wind and everything, it's really hard to keep it on this fence, but I haven't really attacked it. I haven't really gone in there and worked my magic. The business owner he's going in there. That's kind of his baby, so I've kind of been letting him mess with it a little bit, and it's giving him fits. It keeps falling off the fence, basically. I need to prune these up so everything can get sun underneath, but you see I've got some black-eyed Susans back here, and the idea behind this was once this is done blooming, you have this little pocket of color with the echinacea and a bunch of different colors of echinacea, and then the black-eyed Susans, you start see those popping through. blooming at the same time. You get past this green screen because these won't be blooming at the time. And then you come around here and you can spend some time really absorbing this bed because there's a lot of nuance here. Once you come past here, you start seeing the roses and the crepe myrtles are blooming and the little limes are blooming. And then you start seeing all those echinacea back here with the black-eyed Susans blooming. So you can really observe this bed from a lot of different directions and it still looks really good and still has some surprises. Obviously I want to clean these up a little bit, but this isn't necessarily bad as a kind of a blocking area because the shed and all the utility stuff is back here. So you can see this little trail. You just walk up this little trail, get ticks all over, that sort of thing. This bed has been a struggle right here underneath the cherry. I did have a bunch of Shasta daisies and some balloon flower and some, smaller stuff in here. When I first started, it was getting a lot more sunlight. These are going to be 30-foot trees. They're big boys, so they're growing pretty quick. They're happy, losing a couple perennials in here. I think I might have been able to do it, but there's a lot of euonymus in here that for some reason they are in love with euonymus because it's evergreen. It just takes over the space. He should have never planted them because he doesn't have the time to fix it, right? They take a lot of maintenance to keep. That makes sense. And we're going to see more of that here in the area. Yeah, you can see the euonymus has been taking over this fence for a couple decades. The grapevine starts clinging into it, and it's just a mess to try to keep looking good. This area right here is very dense shade, and I tried to get European hydrangeas in here, nothing else, just for a filler. And I got a bunch of free endless summer hydrangeas. As of this winter, I've lost 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and I have one coming back right there that doesn't look very good at all. So it's just, we've got a red bud that I've been taking care of. I probably need to prune that a little bit, but I might just leave it alone because by the time these narcissus, which is what this whole thing is. So there's at least 250 right in here. And I used my 9-inch power planter and I just dug a little hole and then I just put, 8 in that hole and then covered them up. So I knocked it out pretty quick. I think one day after work, I planted 250 of those just super quick. And this is just gorgeous because it's full sun when they're blooming. And so, because there's no leaves on the trees and it just, man, that was good placement on my part. Here, I haven't really been involved a whole lot here. It's slowly but surely, so you can see all this euonymus here, which does a pretty good job of stabilizing the bank, but it needs some help, right? So your fence, I can't even show you, it's so high. Your fence has just completely been taken over by the euonymus, and I've gone in and trimmed it up to try to get it a little tighter against the wall. That needed to be done initially. So initially going in there with some hedge trimmers and just keeping it tight up against the wall, up against the privacy fence so it doesn't kind of jet out because now you're losing a lot of your sun. I've planted some little Tomukiyama Japanese maples in here. They were 1 gallon and they're doing great. I think I just put one right here because that's where I was getting the most dappled sunlight. Again, I've got euonymus. They wanted something growing up this wall, so I don't know where they found it because I wasn't going to sell it to them. Some English ivy. So you've got English ivy and euonymus over in this area. So I'm literally just trying to I put these, I think they're just regular oak leaves. I don't think they're in the Gatsby series, but these regular oak leaves right here, which will look really good against this, my intention for it to look really good up against this white manufactured stone wall. Right here over in the corner, I've got, this is the area that I've been experimenting with. I don't know who it was in the comments, but we were talking about the pufferfish. I've got 4 pufferfish. 2 of them are in dappled light. 2 of them are in pretty dense shade. This is where the 4 are right here. This one gets pretty dense shade here, and it's still alive. It's still doing great if you can look at it. Here, let me get this out of the way. We don't need that guy. Actually, I'm gonna put this in a less conspicuous spot because it's going to turn brown. This is probably about 20 feet up in the air. They put a big giant retaining wall with Rosetta Stone, I think, or something. Is what that is. Those big giant construction blocks. And then they built this up. They've got some texture to them, but you need a skid steer to move them around. That's how big these blocks are. But they've built this up to get a flat area because this is pretty much just straight down to the river. You can see it pretty good. I think this might be 2 years old. It could be 2.5 years old, but this is going to be its third season. I've got another one right here, which is in a little bit more dappled light. It's in a little bit more sun, this one. I'm not having any deer browse, which is good. So here's a European hydrangea. You can see. No, I think these are arborescens, actually. I don't get to play around back here very often. I just kind of let them do that. I was trying to they were very unhappy with this bed and they wanted some ideas about this bed, and none of my ideas got used, which is fine. But she wanted something other than hostas. She wanted some evergreens. I'm just like, it just doesn't get enough sun for evergreens. And I could show you, but every single time they plant sky pencil hollies in here or any kind of evergreen, they die. They just don't do well. The only thing that's doing halfway decent in here is panicle hydrangeas. They wanted some vines growing up here, and I said it's going to be pretty difficult with as much shade as there is, but maybe we can find a vine that would work. Landscaper brain was saying, well, we put vines on this, who's going to manage the vines, right? Because growing vines up on this structure, the bride and groom stand here, would be pretty, but who manages that, right? I mean, it's a almost at least 3-day-a-week thing to come through and just re-establish where you want those vines to go. They've just been left to do whatever in the hell they want, and now it's causing them not necessarily problems, but like you can see, these vines, they're not even, I can do what I can do, but I'm not here every day, so, and they're not here every day too. If they don't have an event, they don't come in unless they have some maintenance or something to do. Anyway, long story short, on each one of these posts, they put one of these vines. It's silver vine. I think it's silver vine. It's in my Tough Plants for Tough Places book. They're not going to bloom here because there's not enough sun, but they will grow up onto it if you can manage it. Here's a prime example right here. I don't understand why you would spend so much money on wrought iron fencing and then want to cover it up with a plant that you bought for 50 cents at the local garden center. I don't understand that value, but it is what it is. This is a prime example. It's going to completely just take over this bed. So they think they're disappointed with this area now. Wait until these vines take over. Yeah, and wait until you choke out all your hostas and it just doesn't get any attention. Then you're really going to be disappointed. Pufferfish here gets a lot more sun, so these end up blooming a little bit better. That's this pufferfish here, and then this pufferfish gets a little bit of dappled light. There's some holes in these oaks, and that's where this light comes from. Moles are a big problem over here. Got a hydrangea on the corner. I've planted a couple hostas in here periodically. So in this area, I planted, I want to say 100, all throughout the property, I've planted 100 little whips of redbud, eastern redbud. So one of the eastern redbud is there. I have no idea what's going on with this. I don't know if he needed to go down there with his skid steer. That had to have been a skid steer. Something's going on there. So they've ran over a couple, probably 5 eastern redbuds on their way down to do that. But that's what happens when you don't own the property, right? You can't control. They're doing some construction somewhere, building some more Airbnbs, blah, 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 blah. But what we've got in here is down in this little stump garden down here. I think they had like a bonfire area where people could do s'mores and stuff like that, but insurance reasons, it wasn't viable. We've got some oak leaf, some European hydrangeas in here, and some dogwoods. So that's what we've planted in here. And then there was a lot more red buds kind of spread out in that area, but not anymore, obviously. Doesn't happen. Got a Tsumukiyama, a 1 gallon Tsumukiyama. I planted them last fall, or last summer. These have came out really well. Let me see if I can get this camera to do what I want it to do. Yeah, this has came out really well. And then there's another one right here that's done really good. They were all free. I got them for free. One of my managers thought we could get into kind of like that niche kind of bonsai market where some of the bonsai fans could come in and buy some 1 gallon Japanese maples for their bonsai. Unfortunately, they were $60 by the time we shipped them all down here, and we had like 60 of each. So I think I took about 12 of them because they had been there for 3 years. You can see this little just regular Acer palmatum is springing up and below the graft. And if I can figure out where it's at, there we go. And so I'm just gonna snip that off. This one did not make it. So I'm just seeing this now. Do you see that? So below the graft, you're starting to get some growth, but above the graft, you really have nothing. You have a little tiny whip here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let this go, and this is maybe not a horrible place to have a big giant palmatum just kind of growing as a backdrop to a lot of this stuff. So we'll just see. The owners probably aren't gonna own this by the time that looks good, and I'll have washed my hands of it by then. Kind of is what it is. This berm here is vinca, like periwinkle, vinca, and lots of weeds and lots of grapevine because it's just so difficult to keep that maintained. This whole section here, this bank is covered in daffodils. This area right here, I planted probably 15 or 20 whips in here of Eastern Redbud, and looked pretty good. I mean, they're growing, right? And then along, there's a boardwalk area that leads up to these tree houses for the Airbnb, and I planted probably the rest over there, like 50 or 60 of them. So that's Affinity Estates. I would take you down to show you where the daffodil experiment was conducted, haphazardly conducted. Use the word conducted lightly. He mows pretty early, so it's difficult to get some good growth out of them because they can't build up a lot of energy once they're done blooming, because then he just goes and mows it, which is no big deal. That was my kind of idea. I wanted to turn that whole area into a daffodil field, but there's not enough soil to do it. It's when you're this close to the river and we're kind of on a plateau, it's just a solid sheet of stone down there. So I was trying it. It was an experiment. I wouldn't say it's a failed experiment because every year they come back in their cute little rows. Alrighty guys, well that's it. I mean, there's a lot to cover. This is going to be a long video, so I apologize. Thank you everybody who's sticking through. Thank you for all the comments. I think that really keeps me going. I do like the comments. Well, the comments I like. Has a lot of potential. You can see this was nothing but a grassy knoll, and it's came a long way. We'll do another update when this bed starts really showing up, when you've got the roses blooming and the drift roses blooming, the knockouts are blooming, the little limes are blooming, the black-eyed Susans are blooming. I mean, you can picture this. There's a lot of nuance. I put a lot of thought into this, and some of it has worked and some of it hasn't worked, but I think it's evolving very well. Oh, I just need more of myself. But from what we learned in the last video, I can't, with a clear conscience, clone myself, because inevitably the clone steward is going to be the evil one. All right, guys, thank you very much. My name's Stuart Moore. This is Landscape Rescue. Thank you for letting me into your home to talk about plants.